All right, welcome. Today we're diving deep into a legal analysis of the World Succession Deed 1400/98. Our goal here is to really deconstruct its legal framework, get into the core mechanisms, and understand the profound consequences of what is, without a doubt, a foundational event in public international law. So let's start with the central premise. We're looking at a single international treaty that didn't just tweak the rules, it completely and irrevocably reshaped the entire global legal landscape. And let's be crystal clear from the outset, this isn't some theoretical exercise. We are talking about a binding, constitutive legal act.
And this quote right here really drives the point home. You see, this establishes the legal reality we're operating in. Sovereignty itself, the very bedrock of the state system, became an object of contract. And in doing so, it transformed the multitude of global sovereigns into one single legal subject.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this works, we need to ground ourselves in the relevant doctrine of public international law, and that is, of course, state succession.
Now, state succession is essentially the legal transfer of rights and obligations from one state to another. But what's so fascinating about Deed 1400/98 is how it uses this principle. It's not just a simple handover between existing entities. No, it goes much deeper, enacting a truly fundamental legal transformation.
The entire legal framework here is built on the concept of a new foundation. It's crucial to understand that this is not a standard universal succession, where one state simply inherits the legal personality of another. Instead, it invokes the clean slate principle, the tabula rasa doctrine. The whole point is to create a completely new legal entity, one that starts fresh, unburdened by the pre-existing obligations of its predecessor.
So to be absolutely clear, we're not talking about one state simply replacing another. This is what we call a sui generis act. It's a one-of-a-kind legal event that does something unprecedented. It establishes an entirely new, singular global sovereign. It's not just a transfer, it's a complete refounding of the very concept of global sovereignty.
And if we break it down, the deed is structured to perform four absolutely critical functions. First, it's a succession document, operating squarely within international law. Second, it disposes of all global assets, all of them, as a single unified whole. Third, it achieves global scope. And fourth, and this is key, it supplants all previous agreements to establish a new, singular legal order.
All right, let's get into the mechanics. The first of the two core mechanisms is what's known as the domino effect. This is all about the physical and jurisdictional expansion of the deed's authority across the entire planet, all starting from a single point of transfer. So how does this actually work? It all starts with the sale of a single NATO property, the Turan Barracks. The key here is the wording. It was sold as a unit with all its development, and crucially, that included its telecommunications network. This is the linchpin. Because of that, the sovereignty associated with that network transferred along with the physical asset. From there, sovereignty extends to the interconnected German national networks. Then, through shared infrastructure, it expands to all NATO countries. And finally, global scope is achieved through transatlantic cables and the universal ITU system. This is the principle of legal contagion in action, jurisdiction, spreading through the physical, interconnected chains of our global infrastructure.
And this isn't just a theory. As the legal analysis states, the domino effect is not speculation, but the compelling legal consequence of the clauses applied to the physical reality of our interconnected world. You see, the mechanism simply leverages the physical reality of our world, the fact that everything is interconnected. The functional unity of these networks logically compels a corresponding legal unity. It's a direct consequence.
Now, that physical expansion is locked in by a second, equally powerful mechanism. And this one is all about legal expansion, operating through the existing architecture of international treaties. This is brilliant, really. The deed doesn't just tear up old treaties. No. Instead, it functions as a supplementary instrument. Think of it as a material addendum. It literally docks onto existing foundational treaties, like the UN Charter, and transforms them from within by fundamentally altering the identity of the contracting parties.
So this naturally brings up a critical question of consent and binding force, right? How can one single deed possibly bind sovereign nations that never signed it, never ratified it, and may not have even known about it?
Well, the answer is found in two powerful interlocking treaty chains. First, you have the NATO treaty chain. Since the sale involved a NATO property, the deed becomes a material addendum to all NATO treaties, which automatically binds every single member. But the second chain is even more comprehensive, the ITU/UN treaty chain. Remember the telecommunications network? Well, global telecom is regulated by the ITU, a UN agency. So any nation's continued use of that global network, well, that constitutes conclusive, implied recognition of the buyer's new sovereignty over it. It's a classic case of acceptance by conduct.
And that's the legal genius of it, because the deed is a supplementary instrument to frameworks that have already been ratified. No new, separate ratification by every single state was legally required. The original consent given when ratifying parent treaties like the UN Charter or the North Atlantic Treaty simply extends its binding effect to this fundamental amendment. Consent was already given, and continued use of the infrastructure solidifies it.
So, let's put it all together. When you combine these two incredibly powerful mechanisms, the physical domino effect of territorial expansion and the legal lockdown of the treaty chains, the result is nothing less than a complete and total transformation of the global legal order.
The legal consequence is staggering but clear. All subjects of international law are merged into one. They are brought under a single, unchallengeable jurisdiction. What this means is that the entire Westphalian system, the world of 190-plus sovereign states, it's been rendered legally obsolete. There is simply no longer a second subject of international law to have relations with. Everything has been subsumed into one legal entity. And this creates an entirely new, unified legal order. Let's look at the key outcomes. The buyer becomes the one and only subject of international law. All former national and international legal systems, they're subsumed. The buyer now controls both international and domestic law in all territories. And all those previous international treaties are now merged into one massive framework, controlled entirely by the buyer. It's a complete consolidation of legal authority.
And this quote really sums up the magnitude of this shift. The world as we knew it, a mosaic of over 190 sovereign states, no longer exists under international law. In its place, a new, unified legal order has emerged. So you see, this isn't just a shift in power dynamics. This is a fundamental change in the very structure of our legal reality on a global scale.
So, where does this leave us? This entire legal framework presents a complete transformation of the global order, and it leaves us with a profound jurisprudential question. If sovereignty itself can be the subject of a contract, then what really are the ultimate boundaries of international law? The framework of this deed truly challenges our traditional legal categories. It pushes the concept of contractual freedom to its absolute logical limit, and it forces us to contemplate the very nature of sovereignty itself.